Hello and welcome to this episode of the Mary-Jess Meets podcast. Today I will be chatting to versatile Maltese performer Nadia Vella. She's a decorated musical theatre and opera performer. She's a featured soloist with the Malta Philharmonic Orchestra and has performed in many arts festivals all over the world. Among her many notable credits are Christine from Phantom of the Opera, Wednesday from the Addams Family. She was a soloist in Handel's Messiah and in a Maltese rock opera. She also appeared in the feature film Blood on the Crown, playing Benedict's opera-singing lover, and her voice features in the movie. So let's meet Nadia Vella on the Mary-Jess Meets podcast. Nadia Vella, welcome to the Mary-Jess Meets podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you for having me. Very good. How are you, Mary-Jess?
Yeah, good, thanks. And as I was saying just before we pressed record, I have been so looking forward to talking to you because you were so helpful for me a couple of years ago when we were talking about summer schools, operatic summer schools in Italy. You were so helpful. And so I've been looking forward to talking to you and to saying thank you in person. And as I said before we pressed record as well, I was looking at doing an operatic summer school in 2020. Obviously it was cancelled for obvious reasons, but you have done operatic summer schools. And I'd love to talk to you about that, but I feel like what we should do is just start from the very beginning and go on to things like that later. So if you're happy, would you please let us know how you got into music? What was it that sparked that interest in music in you from a young age?
So basically, when I was around, I think 5 years old, my mom sent me to piano lessons. And it was actually my piano teacher who discovered that I could sing. I mean, I would sing at home. You know, we have some home videos and you would hear me in the background like, wah, you know, but it was never really, it was like, oh, she's a little kid. She can hold a tune kind of thing. And then when my piano teacher kind of brought it to my mom's attention, she thought the piano would help me to develop it, but since I was still young, I hadn't started singing lessons or anything like that. And then when I was 10, I think, yes, when I was 10, they were holding auditions for Annie, the musical, and yeah, my mom was like, oh, you should go, you should try and see what happens. And I remember watching the movie. I watched it every day for about a month. And I was obsessed. And I think I knew the whole movie by heart by the time I went to the auditions. And I was just thinking to myself, I don't care if I just have a tiny part. I just really want to be part of a show and stuff. And then I ended up actually being cast as Annie. I shared the role with another singer who you know, Rachel Fabry, and that's actually how I met her. And so I think that was kind of the main catalyst, I suppose, because since then it's just been the journey. But it was actually an amazing start. I was quite lucky in that sense, but yeah, that was my debut.
That's such a cool start. And to explain to our listeners, Rachel Fabry was in All Angels. She's got a really successful theatre career as well. And she was a guest on this podcast. So if you'd like to check out more about Rachel Fabry, you can check out her episode. But that is such a great start. I've always said when people want to start singing in a choir. Because as soon as you've got that chorus around you and you're having to maintain your line, listen to the other parts, you learn so many valuable techniques for when you're performing. But then a show obviously takes it to a whole other level, especially being the lead role. You've got so many other things that you're learning there. And you're able to build your stagecraft and your confidence in such an amazing way.
I also think that it really helped that I learned an instrument alongside voice, because I think that has been so helpful. And I can't imagine like having to learn arias, pieces. I can't imagine doing that without having learned piano and theory. And I think it's just so important for singers. So yeah.
Well, I would agree with you there, having come from the other direction, because growing up, we didn't have any money for singing lessons, let alone for anything else. And singing is my primary instrument. But because I have had to learn arias and theory without playing an instrument, it does make it harder in quite a few ways. Like, I'd love it if I could get a score through and be able to play through the accompaniment and know exactly what it sounds like, and I can't do that. So from my point of view, having grown up not playing an instrument, I can completely see how important that would be. And when I was studying Bach chorales at my A-level and harmony, the teacher would always say, play it through afterwards to check that it's right, and I couldn't do that. So I had to work it out sort of more mathematically, really, to check that it would sound right. So I do appreciate what you're saying there. I do feel like that would be a great skill for me to have, and for any singer to have. I can definitely see, seeing as I don't have that skill, how helpful it would be to have it.
Yeah, I think so. I think nowadays, though, it's a little bit easier because there are so many tutorials like on YouTube, and there's just so much more available to learn, at least basic theory, just to follow a score or play like just the right hand melody. I think at least nowadays it is a little bit more accessible and easier to learn, I suppose. So
yeah, you're completely right. And I don't have a piano at home, but I do use the virtual keyboard on the internet.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's that too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know what I'm looking at. Like, I understand it all because I have studied the theory. And then having that just so you can pick out all the notes and everything is really useful. So it is good to have that foundation, really, isn't it? And it is something that's taught a lot of the time in your grades and at school and things like that. Was it something that you learned as part of your main studies growing up, or was it something that you were encouraged to do outside of that?
No, it was outside of that. My mom used to play the violin when she was younger, so I think maybe it was something, you know, that an interest she had and maybe hoped that I would develop. And I don't have siblings, so I guess it was a little bit easier to, you know, send me to some extracurricular lessons, and also it probably saved them from having me going at home at all hours of the day, because I think they could tell pretty much straight away that I like to sing. Like, I was constantly making noise at home. So at least the piano kept me busy. Well, it was still noise, I suppose, but at least not me singing in inverted commas and shrill notes. Yeah.
It sounds like you're being overly modest. I mean, at 10 years old, you've already got a lead in a musical theatre production. It sounds like you're being very modest there.
No, I mean, thank you, but I think it was one of those things where you're the right age, you look right for the role, maybe the right height, and, you know, sometimes you're just kind of at the right place at the right time. And I think that was it with Annie, because there have been so many auditions I've been to where I wasn't right and I wasn't chosen, or I just wasn't good enough, really. So I think, you know, sometimes you get a lucky break, and that was my lucky break, I suppose. So, but I think if you heard the home videos when I was around 5-6 years old, you would agree that it was like a banshee in the background. I was like, my poor mum and dad having to listen to literally. So yeah.
I think you're being cruel to yourself. I reckon at 5 or 6 years old you would have been adorable, but it really sounds like Annie spurred you on. It like gave you that love of theatre. So what did you decide to do after Annie? Were you constantly looking for the next opportunity, ready to get on that stage again?
Pretty much, yes. We were quite lucky because at the time the drama school, the drama school I went to in Malta when I was still a teenager, like kind of growing up, literally started right after Annie. So we were the first class at this school, but it was all my friends from Annie. You know, there was Rachel and all sort of these other people that I ended up growing up with in a musical environment, you know, and going to these classes once a week. And it was just the highlight of my week, really, like doing drama, dance, singing, you know. So that company organized more, well, put up more productions which involved kids or young teens. And so it was, you know, it just progressed in that way. And I ended up participating in quite a few shows by the time I was old enough to sort of take it on as a career. So I think it was really helpful in my development. And
Was it always in your mind that you wanted that to be your career?
I think yes, definitely. Yeah. In Malta, it's a little bit harder because it's only now that people are kind of doing it full time. It wasn't really very common. I mean, there were people who did, but most of them had to do that abroad because it's such a tiny island, and sort of the arts were not taken so seriously. Maybe when I was a kid, I think things have changed significantly since then, and they're still changing. I think now there are quite a few people who do it full-time musicians, full-time singers, full-time actors, but it is a little bit trickier because it's a small place. We don't have shows with massively long runs because it's just not viable, and this was before COVID, so obviously that threw in there's another spanner in the works, but I always wanted to sing. I think I knew that pretty much straight away. It's just it was a little bit scary when I actually came to the age where, you know, you have to decide, only because, you know, my parents were concerned, oh, well, can you turn this into a full-time career? Are you going to earn enough money to live? And, but I was lucky that I ended up taking the plunge, I suppose, because I studied in England. Of course, I had to move there. And I think, I still think it's the best thing I did for myself, even though doing that at 19 was quite scary and a risk. But I'm glad that I managed somehow.
Yeah, it's definitely scary at 19, going out and pursuing your dreams and trying to make a living for yourself. Did you think while you were trying to make that choice, was there any other backups that you were thinking you might want to do?
I actually went to university here. I did IT for a year. I was reading like for a bachelor's of science in IT, and I passed my exams. Like I was promoted to second year, and then I was just like, I want to sing. This is not for me. So, but I think if I should think now what I would do if I wasn't a singer, I would probably want to do interior design. I think it's super interesting. I love it. And so if anything had to happen and I couldn't sing anymore, hopefully that would never happen. But I think that would be my plan B, I think.
That's such an interesting plan B. What sparked your interest in interior design?
Oh, I love it. I'm obsessed. I could spend ages just looking at tiles and furniture, and I love it. I suppose it's maybe the artist side of me. I can't draw to save my life, but I like interiors. I like carpets and lights, and I find it really interesting. So.
That's really cool. Well, it definitely takes a creative brain to be able to conceptualize all of that within a space.
I think so. I mean, you have to have talent to do it. I mean, so I'm not saying I have that talent. It's just a hobby for me. Just I do admire like beautiful spaces and just how people must sort of visualize that in their brain, and just how they're what's the word I'm looking for? Not stimulated, how they're inspired by certain things. So I think that would be a fun career.
Yeah, I really agree with you. The best person I can think of is Angel Strawbridge. I don't know if you've seen the TV program Escape to the Chateau.
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, Nadia, you'd love it. Right, so these two Brits go off to France and they buy a derelict 45-room chateau. With it's proper Disney. It's got proper like pepper pot turrets and everything as well. And the way that they bring it back to life using so much of the original features and so much of the original character of the chateau is really amazing. But Angel Strawbridge is quite out there with her designs. Like I think in one of the first episodes, she's going into a room and she's saying with her husband, he looks at a room and goes, right, it needs to be plastered there. There's going to be a plug socket there. And she goes into a room and she says, there's going to be a giraffe there. Because she like clear as day sees it in her head. And it is amazing having that creative vision to be able to look at a space that's nothing like what you see in your head, but what it's going to turn into. Honestly, check out Escape to the Chateau. I think you'll love it.
It sounds interesting. Yeah.
It seriously is. I mean, also interesting from the point of view of, I love risk takers who go and like chase their dreams. It's really cool from that point of view as well. But yeah, it's definitely a creative art is interior design. So being a creative yourself, I can see how that would lead on to that. Even though it seems quite different from music, you're using that same area of the brain, aren't you? Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, I really want to ask you, you said something quite quickly, and I want to go back to it, which was that you had to leave Malta and come to England to study. So having done a year in IT, which I mean is a brilliant backup, let's face it, if you need a second string to your bow, IT is a good one. But seeing as you did your year and then went, do you know what, I need to sing, it sounds like it was a great way of being able to make up your mind that you were doing the right thing. So that's fabulous. But then why did you decide to come to England to study? Why did you decide that place? And how did you find it?
Well, England was kind of the right choice because of the language mainly as well. And in Malta, we're bilingual, so you grow up learning English as well. So that was probably one of the main reasons, I think. With schools, I just remember looking up on the internet like different schools and just going to a bunch of auditions. That was it really. And then I quite liked the area of the school that I was at. I was at a Hertfordshire Theatre School, so I quite liked Hitchin, the little town it was in, and it wasn't too difficult to find somewhere to rent and just all of these things. So that was it really with why. And also I had been to England quite a few times. We've been there family holidays. I have relatives who live in England, so it was kind of like, okay, it's a place which is somewhat familiar and there's not going to be a language barrier as well. So yeah, it was the obvious choice really at the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so cool that you learn 2 languages from birth in Malta. That is just such a gift. I mean, as somebody who learned a language in adulthood, well, I started learning Chinese when I was 12, and I'm still learning. I think I'll be learning that language for the rest of my life, my goodness me. But what a gift to be bilingual from birth. That's amazing.
Also, till I was around maybe 7, we watched a lot of Italian TV. Like all the good cartoons would be on the Italian channels. So that's how I learned how to speak Italian. Like by the time I was 7, 8, I was fluent in Italian. So that was 3 languages by the time I was 8. It was quite good. And it was quite a fun way of learning because you're not actually sitting and, you know, going through everything. And when kids are so young, you just pick up languages so quickly. I don't think, well, I can't do it now. I'm actually trying to, my boyfriend is Swedish, so I'm trying to learn Swedish, and it takes so much longer now, obviously. than when you're a kid. And yeah, I can understand quite a lot of Swedish, but I don't speak it very well. I wish I could speak Chinese though. I think that's pretty cool. I'm sure that's really, really hard with the different alphabet and everything, and just I can't even imagine how difficult it would be.
Yeah, it's not the easiest of languages, but then again, it's only the one, and you've got 4 that you're talking about there, which is very impressive. Have you had to sing in lots of different languages as well?
Yes, I've had to sing in German as well. I studied German at school though. I studied it for 3 years. I have my GCSE. Do you call them GCSEs in England?
Yeah.
The equivalent, we call it O level, but I think it's the same. But I can't speak it. Like if it's written, I can kind of understand the gist, but I can't speak it this way. And I also studied French at school for a couple of years. Again, basic, but I've had to sing in German, French, Italian, mostly Italian, but yeah, Maltese as well, and English, of course. No other languages so far, I think.
That's quite a lot to be getting on with already, to be fair.
I'd like to try Russian, but I'm sure it's super, super hard.
Yeah, it would be, but it'd be cool though, wouldn't it?
It would be cool, yes.
Yeah.
When I think it's to sing in, I think it must be quite good. It's down there, you know. Well, I don't know. I think it would be quite challenging, but loads of beautiful Russian pieces. So I'm sure it'd be worth the time spent.
Yeah, that would be more in operatic circles though, wouldn't it, rather than musical theatre? Yeah. And you've covered both, as we know, being in operas and classical productions as well as musical theatre. Do you have a favourite that you can share with us?
I don't know. One that I've been in, you mean, or just in general?
One that you've been in.
I think my favourite role, musical theatre wise, was definitely Christine in Phantom of the Opera. I know it's a bit cliche, but I really enjoyed that role. And it was just I loved our production. I was lucky to work with some really good people all around, cast and crew. Everyone was amazing. So can't praise it enough, really. Opera, I mean, I'm still going into that world, really. I've had a lot more experience with musical theatre than I've had with it's all a bit new, and I have so much more to learn. But I quite enjoyed the recent production I was in. I was Belinda in Dido and Aeneas, Purcell's, and that was quite fun. We had gorgeous costumes. Again, really nice people to work with. So that obviously makes it easier, so much easier when but I would love to play maybe Lucia in future, in Lucia de Lammermoor. I think that would be a cool role. Or maybe Linda in Linda di Chamonix. I love Donizetti. It's my absolute favorite. So yeah, maybe one day.
Well, is that why you're transitioning into opera then? Because you've got these roles that you'd love to be able to play, and they're more operatic roles?
I think from the get-go, like when I was deciding, when I was a teenager and kind of deciding on, should I go to drama school or should I do opera? My teacher was like, I think you should do opera. And I was very much like, no, it's boring. It's for old people. I was literally having none of it. And actually my first singing lesson at drama school, my new teacher there, she was like, are you sure you're on the right course? I was like, yes, I'm going to belt and it's going to be great. In hindsight, maybe if I can go back in time, I would probably have taken a different route and done opera from the get-go, because I think that is more what my voice suits. But yeah, we can't do that. We can't go back in time. So I'm doing it now.
Well, maybe that's actually worked out for the best, because I know that like when I was deciding what to do for university, I went to Guildhall in London for a consultation lesson. And I said to them, look, I can't decide what to do. I can't decide whether to go to university and study Mandarin Chinese or whether I should go to a conservatoire straight away. And they said, well, actually, you're a bit young right now. We need people who are a bit older so that your voice and your muscles are mature enough to actually cope with the training. So that's why I ended up going and doing Mandarin Chinese with Western classical music at a different establishment first. I went to Sheffield University and then studied in China. And then the plan was to go back and to go to Guildhall or a place like that. Yeah. So actually, even though you're saying maybe it'd be good to be able to go back in time and do opera first, maybe it's great that you're doing it now that you're at a level where you do have so much experience, you know your voice very well, and also it's got stronger through, you know, being used and through age and through maturing. Maybe now is actually the best time.
Yeah. It's, you can see you're seeing it much more positively. So, but yes, I think I do really believe that things happen, have a way of working themselves out. And sometimes you think, oh, it doesn't, why did this happen? And, you know, and then it kind of makes sense a few years down the line. So, and I can't complain really. I've had some beautiful experiences and I've worked with some amazing people. So, and I really enjoyed my time in England as well. So I can't, and my time at drama school. So yeah, and I learned a lot, especially from the acting aspect. I think, yeah, the acting training we had was great. And so it was definitely not wasted time. It was very, you know, it was very enriching experience, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah.
Yeah, and acting is actually a gift that is so often overlooked when it comes to singing, because really what you're doing, if you're singing something that you don't personally identify with, and a lot of the drama that happens in opera, hopefully you don't have personal experiences of some of those storylines, but it means that you've got to be, well, exactly, it means you've got to be a good actress, doesn't it, to really portray the emotion that character must be feeling. So it's something that is so important, not only for opera but for musical theatre, but for other like if you're singing a pop song or something else where it's got an emotion that maybe you can't quite connect to, you've got to try and really put yourself, and do like method acting, put yourself in somebody else's shoes or draw on your own experience in some way, in order to act that emotion and get that across, even if you don't really feel it yourself. So it's a really good technique to get in at a young age. Did you ever think about that when you were acting and thinking, oh, actually this is good for my singing and singing in music? Because I don't think often people realize how closely connected it is to singing and performing.
No, definitely. And it was something I did struggle with at first. Just, it was kind of like, okay, I have a box, and this is my acting box, and this is my singing box, and this, you know, and I had a very bad habit. I still do it. It's still something I have to consciously think about, that sort of you know how it is when you're singing, it's, oh, the support, is this note coming out right, the tuning, the position of the mouth. There's so much to think about that sometimes, especially when I was younger, I'd go into singing mode and I literally would just not even be thinking about the emotions. And it was something that was addressed quite often well, it was addressed in length at drama school, and I think I'm so grateful for that. I'm far from an expert, but I think it really helped me to put the boxes together, because I really did sort of compartmentalize and think, okay, you know, and it was something I really struggled with. And as you're saying, I think all singers need to tap into those emotions, even pop singers, even, it's not just musical theatre or opera, it's so important, because otherwise the color is just not there. That, you know, when somebody is singing, just going through the notes, and when somebody is actually feeling what they're singing about, it's just, it makes such a difference, definitely. Even if you can't see them, just the sound in the voice and the emotion in the voice, it's so important.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I really do. And you can tell, you're right, you can tell even when you're not looking at a person. And that's something that is so apparent in recording artists. You know, when you're recording a song, you need to make sure that the emotion is, the performance is all there for people who cannot see you, for people who are listening on headphones. You still need to make sure that that emotional performance is still there within the recording. So yeah, you're completely right. You can 100% tell if somebody is just going through the motions and focusing on the singing part, or if they are actually performing it, even if you can't see them. I love that about recording. Yeah, I find that so much fun. What recording have you done?
Well, I'm just trying to think the last thing I've done. You mean like recording in a studio, or you mean self-tapes? What do you mean?
Oh, I'm interested in what these self-tapes are, but let's talk studio first.
Yes, I've recorded quite a few things in the past. I think what's quite good with that is that people are not seeing your ugly singing face. When you can rock up to the studio, like kind of in your pajamas if you want, and then you're comfortable, and then, you know, and then you don't need to worry about that aspect, and just be, you know what I mean.
I do, I genuinely do. I've got a pair of slippers that I used to take to studios. I mean, I record from home now, but I've got a pair of giraffe slippers that I used to take with me, so I was comfortable when I was recording.
Yeah, I think it makes a huge difference, and it's good. Of course, there are times when they're actually filming the recording, and then you can't do that.
Well, but, as long as they're not getting my feet in, I'm okay.
That's true. I mean, recording is a different ball game to singing live. You know, you can just go back and fix everything, and nowadays, especially, you can fix literally anything. So I think it's a very different ball game when you're just a recording artist and you don't do a lot of live things, and when it's obviously live and you get one chance to get it right. And yeah, so
yeah, it's definitely a different way of singing. It's a different skill. But what did you mean by the self-tapes?
Oh no, I meant like recently I was a part of the Songbirds live stream concerts, and I also
I loved your performances. They were beautiful.
Thank you so much. You know what happened actually when I was, it was the last one I did, I think. I had my iPad set up on the stand. I'm really not good with home recordings. I just, some people are so skilled at these things, but I'm just,
yeah. So
I had it all set up, and the block next door, there was construction going on next door, so I had to actually change rooms a few times, and I went into the like soundproofed one, but you could still hear the distant like. So it was a few tests I had to do before I could actually film. Then when it finally stopped, and then the lighting, you know, getting the lighting right and all that, when it finally stopped, I did this. And I dropped, I literally pushed my iPad off the stand, like it lifted off, and it just went and smashed. The screen was smashed, and it was actually the day after was bank holiday, so I couldn't even take it to be. It wasn't ready for a few days later, and I was just like, oh. And this was like hours. Literally hours into trying to just start filming. You know, it's just, oh, you know, you get your hair and makeup done, then the lighting, then trying to find a quiet spot, and then yeah. So
no.
So I'm glad at least you enjoyed the performance. But yeah, it was quite a costly performance, that one, because but these things happen. But then I truly appreciated the work that like camera videographers do, and lighting designers, and sound engineers, because I'm just so, even just leveling everything.
Yeah. It is really hard, and there's so much more to think about than you realize. Like you say, normally it takes a whole team of people to put a show together.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got stage managers, you got the set creators, you got the lighting, you got the sound engineers, you got so many other people behind the scenes, hair and makeup, costume, everything. And then it's down to you to put it all together for the one performance. It's actually a lot. It takes ages, doesn't it?
Yeah,
yeah,
really does.
I'm so sorry to hear that story. That's just awful.
Okay, these things happen, but yeah. But at least you liked the performance, so it wasn't in vain.
It was
It
not.
turned out well in the end.
It certainly did. It certainly did turn out well in the end. I loved your performance. And I know that I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, talking about performing, I mentioned that you'd been to a performance opera summer school, and I would just love to ask you more about that, because as I said at the beginning, I was planning on going and doing an opera summer school, and we were talking about the one that you went to and how amazing it was. I was going to sign up for that course, and then of course COVID hit and 2020 cancelled everything, but I'd love to know more about your experiences. Now I get to talk to you face to face on this podcast. Please tell us more about that.
It was basically a 2-week course in Veneto in Italy. We worked with Dr. Matteo Della Fratte, and it was on the Melafonetica method, which is basically a method that he developed to sing Italian in the context of operatic arias, etc. Just in a clearer way, where usually the focus is on the vowel sounds. With this, it's more on the consonants and just the patterns that the consonants appear in the words. Obviously, he can explain it a lot better than I am. But the course itself, I had a great time. We were staying in this monastery, actually, which was very nice. The area was super picturesque, and we were working on different pieces. I was working on Don Elvira, Don Giovanni, and we did scenes from different operas, and we would work with the conductor, and actually the musicians were on the course as well. So it wasn't just for opera singers. The orchestra were actually music students as well, and then obviously we had a performance at the end of the course. We had several performances, actually. We had another one in a church, beautiful church, and the Don Giovanni performance was in this beautiful theatre in a place called Asolo. Obviously, being in Italy, they took us to some really nice places to eat and just places to see. We made the most of it in that respect. And I met some really, really, really nice people who I still speak with a lot to this very day, and people from all over the world, like America. Two of the two girls I shared my room with, one is British and the other one is from Holland, and they were so nice, and we had so much fun, and we just laughed so much. And it was interesting to have people who are so different, but then you have one common ground, because I just feel you learn from them, and just learn how different it is in their countries, and sort of the opera scene in other places. And yeah, I would really recommend it. I had, like, it was very well organized, and we had such a good time, like, all around. And I mean, it's Italy. I love Italy. I think it's probably one of the nicest places in the world for so many reasons. So yeah, there's nothing you can't like in this course, I think.
I mean, you're definitely selling it to me.
Yeah. I think they should they should give me a commission. But
yes.
No, but I honestly had a really good time. It was a very well spent 2 weeks, and I think it was very worth we also had obviously we had individual attention as well, and we had another night where we performed solo arias, and it was in this beautiful venue, like this place, like up in the mountains. It was just so beautiful. So yeah,
that sounds amazing. So how come you decided to look at courses yourself anyway? Was it so that you could really focus on the pronunciation of the Italian, or for the development of your voice, or for another reason?
It was a bit of everything, really. It was the Italian technique and everything, and also because I love Italy so much, I actually came across it very randomly. It was just a sponsored post that I came across, and I was like, oh, what's this? This looks nice, and so yeah. But I would go again if I got the chance to do it, and I think these short courses can be very helpful and fun mostly. So
yeah, it does sound like fun. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm glad I got to ask you about that. Thank you so much for answering my question there. But talking about answering questions, I have some questions from the Mary-Jess Club for you. So just to tell our lovely listeners a bit more about the Mary-Jess Club, it is my version of Patreon. So you get over 14 exclusive benefits, and you get to ask my wonderful podcast guests any questions that you want before we record these podcasts. And you can find out more about the Mary-Jess Club in the description below. So we've got some questions for you, Nadia. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So the first one is, what was it like working with Gillian Zammit at Trinity?
So Gillian is a multi-soprano. She's absolutely brilliant. She is very, very popular here. She's one of the most sought after performers, and actually a very good teacher, I think. She very encouraging. She's got an amazing sort of CV to her name. She sung with Joseph Calleja, Andrea Bocelli, you know, like people who are just amazing. And mostly I think what I like about her is that she's very honest. She won't say it in a brutal way. Like she will word it nicely, but she will always say the truth, even if it's maybe not what you want to hear. And that I really appreciate in her. But she's amazing. Look her up, Gillian Zammit. She has an album with Tosti songs, and they're gorgeous. She's absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I think I got quite lucky with her. I think she's amazing.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, and her voice is completely incredible. So it must have been really cool studying under her. So we've already covered a couple of the questions from the Mary-Jess Club. We've spoken about all your amazing languages. You're so clever. And then also one question here we've sort of covered, but I'd like to go into it a bit further. What's it like living on an island country less than 30 miles in length, where most people go for vacations? So you've already said that you had to travel outside of Malta to study, but what's it like being in Malta when you're in this scene of music?
I think it comes with advantages and disadvantages. I think, well, it's maybe easier to network, because sort of once you've established yourself, it's easier to sort of get work, because it's small, people get to know you, you know, and in that respect, I think it's good. There are obviously things which are a little bit annoying, because it's a small place, and with small places, I think certain things come along. What I find a little bit annoying is that some people don't think being a singer is a real job, since there are a lot of people who do it sort of part-time or as a hobby. It's kind of seen as, oh, well, anyone can sing, or anybody can act, or it's not a real job, go get a real job kind of thing. So I don't like that attitude, which I think is still quite prevalent, how do you say that?
Yeah.
Prevalent here, sadly, although things have gotten better. The advantages as well of being here is that, like, I live right next to the sea. It's beautiful. I think I love that aspect of it, and that it's not going to take me hours and hours to get to where I need to go, unless there's lots of traffic. But I mean, it's quite easy to go to places, whereas obviously when I lived in England, it was a little bit harder, and you know, with that, in that respect. But if you're looking for a holiday, I think if you can tolerate the heat, very, very big if over there, then I think it's a nice place. It's quite popular with British people. We do get a lot of British people holidaying here. And I think the music scene has gotten a lot better. I think our national orchestra, the Malta Philharmonic, is just amazing and world class. Like we had a Diana Damrau recently sing with the Malta Philharmonic. Yeah, I know. I love her. I didn't get to see her. I'm so sad.
Oh no!
Yes.
She came to Malta and sang with the orchestra, and you didn't get to see her.
It was a closed event, just invite only. I didn't get an invite. How sad. But because of COVID, it was like a closed recording. But yeah, so world-class musicians, world-class singers. I mean, we have had such talent come out of this tiny little island. I mean, Joseph Kalea, and just mentioning one person, and even with actors as well and dancers. And I think it's amazing to see as well with the really young people who are still studying, just how much talent is out there, on considering it's just a tiny little place which not many people know about. So small, but has a lot to offer, I think.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I've absolutely loved Malta when I've been there. I've been to visit Rachel a couple of times, and it's just, I love it. Absolutely love Malta. But I also would say as well is that perception of singing not being a real job is not exclusive to Malta. You will get that in a few places, which is frustrating. It's like, if you knew all the different jobs I had to do during a day in order to make this my living, honestly, there's just, I mean, there's so many things that, as you know, that we have to do as singers, that when I was growing up telling people, hey, I'm going to be a singer, that I never imagined in my wildest dreams I'd have to be doing in order to make this my career. So yeah, we do get that in a few places. So we've got another question from the Mary-Jess Club, if you're happy for me to dive in.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so this person obviously knows that you played Wednesday in the Addams Family, and they're wondering what it was like playing a role like that, because Christine is obviously very beautiful, very poised, she's a dancer, you know, whereas Wednesday is quite a different role. So what was it like?
I think Wednesday is a lot more like how I actually am in real life than Christine. I'm really not like Christine in real life. So I quite enjoyed playing Wednesday because I could just be myself. I don't walk around with a crossbow but actually my cousin used to call me Wednesday when I was a kid, because I was very much like, I used to have my hair in bunches and I loved black, which was maybe a little bit strange, like a kid who always wanted to wear black. I still do, not wearing black now, but I still like to wear black. And I also remember watching the movie when I was quite young, with Christina Ricci in it, and I was just like, oh my god, she's so cool, I want to be like so I really enjoyed playing Wednesday because I got to be weird, and I got to be my weird self without feeling judged, and I could always be like, no, I'm just acting, but I wasn't.
That's really cool. It must have been so much fun to really identify with a role and then be able to play it.
It was a fun role, because even in the Addams Family, they're all like, you know, larger than life characters. So sometimes it's fun to just play just something light and not having to delve into you know, like the dark well, I mean, she did have dark thoughts, but it was all very light and sort of tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. So but yeah, I really enjoyed it, loved it, loved my crossbow, and loved my costume as well. Really cool costumes, fun costumes.
Oh, that's so cool. It must be so much fun to be able to play all those different roles. And thank you so much for answering the questions from the Mary-Jess Club. If our lovely listeners would like to find out more about joining my version of Patreon, the Mary-Jess Club, and getting access to all of the exclusive benefits, you can go to the link in the description and check that out. So Nadia, I'd love to ask you now, what is next for you? What's in the pipeline?
So I have a concert coming up with the Malta Philharmonic. I'm super, super excited. So that's going to be happening quite soon, in maybe a month's time. Yeah, a month's time. And then I also have a filming project, which I'm not really allowed to talk much, I'm not really allowed to say much about, but exactly.
You can tell us quietly. We won't tell anyone.
It's filmed back in time. It happens back in time, before World War II. So around that time, and my character actually gets to sing in it. But I can't really tell you more than that. My costumes are amazing. I went for a fitting this morning to try out. It was my first fitting, and I was like, oh my God, can I keep them? Really, really nice. So I'm quite excited about that. And then I also have another couple of concerts, one of which is with Rachel in November. So I'm looking forward to that too. So quite busy, but fun. Good to be working steadily again after, well, not after COVID, but at least after the sort of lockdowns and that we've had. And so hopefully none of those get cancelled.
Yeah.
But that's what's next.
That's really exciting. Well, Nadia, thank you so much for coming and joining me on the Mary-Jess Meets podcast. When you're able to tell us more about your filming, you'll have to come back on and tell us all about it, because I'd love to hear more when you're able to say more. But thank you so much for treating us to a little sneak peek of what will be going on soon. So thank you for that. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having me. It was lovely to talk to you.
Lovely to talk to you too. Thank you so much. And I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.